Rabbi Bakst's dream. I merited to be in a group of people, a small group of people, who heard the following story from the great sage of Detroit, Rabbi Leib Bakst. In the 40s, during the war, he contracted a disease, and he had about 104 fever, 104, 105 fever, and he was delirious, and they brought him to the hospital. There were no drugs, and they decided that they would try to have him perspire, and that would cool him down. So they wanted him in the hot room without clothing, that perhaps this would cause the fever to go down if he were to perspire. And he was very delirious, and nothing mattered to him. And in his delirium, he suddenly fell asleep, and he dreamt that he was in this large room. And in the front of the large room was a large table. At the head of the table sat a great scholar whom he did not recognize. And to the right, to his right, sat his spiritual guide, Rabbi Yeruchim Leibovitch. And to the left, someone else whom he did not recognize. And the head of this triumvirate, this really was the court of heaven, asked him, "Young man, tell me, you're a yeshiva boy." He said, "Yes." "Who is greater, a man or an angel?" And he said, "Why a man?" "So then, let me ask you this. Can an angel do more than one thing at a time?" And the rabbi said, "No. An angel can only do one mission at a time." "But you say that a man is greater than an angel. Does that mean that a man can do more than one thing at a time?" And he thought, and he said, "Yes, a man can have more than one motive at a time." And realizing that this was really a judgment of himself and his multiple personality, both the good and the evil side, the rabbi said, yes, a man can have more than one thought at a time. However, a man can only be into one thing at a time. You can only be motivated and aroused by one thing at a time. And therefore, if you will let me live, I promise to work singularly for the glory of God. And that was the moment he woke up. Now, what actually transpired? What transpired was the judgment of his soul. He had an advocate, his own teacher. Be kind to your teachers. They will judge you. They will be your advocates. On the left side, he didn't recognize that was someone who, that was the other side, judging unfavorably. And the man at the head, he was the chief of the court. And he was the deciding vote. Now, obviously, God does not need a court of people, but the divine court, which is composed of scholars and souls, each person has his own divine court because each person has his own spiritual guide throughout his lifetime. But the spiritual court that judges the person judges according to the Torah. And the Torah is God's will and God's wisdom. and everything that is judged is accurate, 100% accurate. It is not that the judges are somehow separate from God's will. The judges judge only according to God's rules, and therefore as such are the agents of God. And within any judgment, there's to the right for kindness, to the left for stricture, and to the middle for truth. But everything in the world is governed by a divine wisdom. And this divine wisdom is the wisdom that is found in the Torah. The whole world, everything, not only the bacteria, not only the atoms and the subatomic particles, but the galaxies and the clusters of the galaxies, the Big Bang itself, everything that exists in the world follows a pattern of law, of order. And that law and order is the essence of the teachings of the Torah. And so, every one of us is judged on a daily basis. And there is a triumvirate. Not a triumvirate, there's a triad, a tribunal that watches over us. What is the tribunal? Is it a real tribunal? Yes. There are souls that hover around us. Souls that see our good side and see our negative side and see the balance between them. And we hope that always the balance will be in our favor, whether we are here or in heaven. I'm sure that when we find ourselves in the other world, our teachers will be waiting for us, and maybe Rabbi Bakst will also sit in that tribunal to our right.